Meghan Markle is willing to take the stand in a legal battle with the British press, it was revealed today, setting up an extraordinary High Court showdown with her estranged father who she branded a liar. The Duchess of Sussex, 38, is suing Associated Newspapers, owner of the Mail on Sunday and Mail Online, over an article which reproduced parts of a handwritten note she sent to Mr. Markle, 75, in August 2018. 3 months after he was unable to walk her down the aisle following a heart attack. The first stage of her case started at the High Court in London today, where the publisher made an application to have parts of her claim thrown out. It was held via video link due to coronavirus. Her celebrity barrister David Sherborne told the hearing his client had suffered great personal anguish and distress as part of an alleged agenda against her in the press before making it clear Meghan would give evidence during any future trial. He said, "The defendant, Associated Newspapers, wants to cross-examine her, Meghan, as to whether that belief is reasonable or not, and they can do that." The Duchess's bring-it-on attitude emerged near the end of the day's proceedings, which the Sussexes are believed to have watched online from Los Angeles, where they have settled with their son Archie. The High Court case has been dubbed Markle vs. Markle, in which the Duchess's estranged father Thomas, 75, is prepared to give evidence against his own daughter in a box office trial where a judge would decide who is telling the truth about their rift and a letter Meghan sent to him in August 2018. On Monday, court papers lodged by Meghan's lawyers branded her father a liar and denied she knew her influential friend's plans to reveal details of her deteriorating relationship with him, and her handwritten letter to him with People magazine in America. Thomas Markle has said he felt pressured to share the letter with the press after its contents were misrepresented and he was vilified in the People article, telling the Mail on Sunday, "I have to defend myself. I only released parts of the letter because other parts were so painful. The letter didn't seem loving to me. I found it hurtful." Meghan would also be asked under oath whether she knowingly allowed her friends to leak details of the letter to People magazine to attack her father. These 5 unnamed best friends could also be forced to testify at the High Court in London. The court heard today that Meghan alleges her estranged father Thomas was harassed and exploited by the press despite not speaking to him for 2 years or asking if he agrees with her claims. Anthony White QC, for Associated Newspapers, today told Judge Mr. Justice Warby it is curious that the Mail on Sunday is accused of harassing, humiliating, manipulating and exploiting Mr. Markle when his daughter hasn't spoken to him. He said claims made by Meghan about her father appear to have been put onto the record without the claimant, Ms. Markle, having contacted her father to see if he agrees with them. Allegations by the Duchess of Sussex that Mail on Sunday articles were responsible for causing the dispute between her and her estranged father are also objectionable, Mr. White told the High Court. Mr. Justice Warby said at the end of today's 6-hour hearing that he will give his ruling on Associated Newspapers' application at a later date, hopefully within the next week. Today's routine hearing is a stepping stone to a full High Court trial in late 2020 or early 2021 that could see Meghan Markle and Thomas Markle coming face to face for the first time in more than 2 years and giving evidence against each other. But the publisher wholly denies the allegations, particularly the claim that the letter was edited in any way that changed its meaning, and says it will hotly contest the case, claiming the story was in the public interest. Associated Newspapers also allege that 4 days before the Most piece on February 10, 2019, the Duchess had already expressly or tacitly allowed friends to leak the contents of the letter to People magazine, breaching her own privacy. Thomas Markle has also claimed he felt pressured to share the letter with the press after its contents were misrepresented and he was vilified in the People article, telling the Mail on Sunday, "I have to defend myself. I only released parts of the letter because other parts were so painful. The letter didn't seem loving to me. I found it hurtful." Lawyers for the Mail on Sunday and Mail Online have also claimed that the Duchess of Sussex's immaculate handwriting in a letter to her father is proof she intended it to be published. Ms. Markle's claim describes her father as vulnerable despite her cutting all ties with him after their public fallout just before the royal wedding at St. George's Chapel in Windsor. At today's hearing, lawyers for Associated Newspapers asked the court to strike out parts of Meghan's case, including claims the decision to publish the letter was malicious. Anthony White, for Associated Newspapers, also argued that part of Ms. Markle's claim for damages is inadmissible and should be struck out on the grounds of disproportionality, adding that if the court finds in her favor it would have consequences for the freedom of expression the press enjoys. The QC said the Duchess alleges the publisher was one of the tabloid newspapers which had been deliberately seeking to dig or stir up issues between her and her father and was meddling in their relationship. Mr. White said, "The claimant has seen fit to put these allegations on the record without having spoken to Mr. Markle, verifying these allegations with him or obtaining his consent," adding Ms. Markle admits that she has had no contact with him since the wedding. He added, "It is therefore highly unlikely that she has any credible basis for these allegations of impropriety towards him." Mr. White also took issue with the Duchess's allegation that the publisher acted dishonestly when deciding which parts of her letter to her father to publish. He added, "It is extremely common for the media to summarize or edit documents when reporting current events, and that is not a basis for an allegation of dishonesty. There is no basis for her to allege that anyone working for the defendant was dishonest in the drafting and editing process." He added that the key story at the center of the court battle made it clear it contained excerpts of the letter to Mr. Markle from his youngest daughter. Images in the story also showed it was only parts of the note, he said. David Sherborne, for Ms. Markle, later claimed the Mail on Sunday deliberately tried to dig or stir up issues between her and her father. He claimed that father and daughter had a particularly warm relationship before the royal wedding and their rift. He said, "It is the defendant's actions in stirring up a rift that has been used as justification for publishing this letter," adding there was no public interest for the story. Mr. Sherborne also accused the defendant of trying to deceive the public by stating it was the full letter, when it was edited. He also alleged the defendant left out parts of the letter in a calculated attempt to portray Meghan in a negative light. Associated Newspapers denies the claims and said the article clearly stated the story contained excerpts of the letter. Mr. Sherborne said the letter was obviously private correspondence and contained Meghan's deepest and most private thoughts about her relationship with her father when he was ill and unable to give her away, adding she was deeply shocked and upset. He went on, "There was no public interest served by the publication, which was neither presented as nor capable of contributing to a debate in democratic society relating to matters of legitimate public interest. Rather, it was disclosed with the sole and entirely gratuitous purpose of satisfying the curiosity of the defendant's readership about the private life of the claimant, a curiosity deliberately generated by the defendant." Mr. Sherborne also argued that a number of intrusive and offensive additional articles published by Associated Newspapers about the Duchess should be taken into consideration in support of her privacy action, but not as part of the claim. Mr. Sherborne said, "It is very much about the claimant's state of mind." He added that this was about the distress she feels about the realization that the defendant has an agenda and that this is not a one-off. "It's all about distress, it's not about damage to reputation." The barrister also claimed the former Suits actress was completely unaware of the interview given to People magazine in America by her friends, which referenced the letter to her father. The Mail on Sunday alleges that Meghan allowed a group of 5 close confidants to leak details of the letter to People magazine on February 6, 2019, which means the Duchess breached her own privacy. Canadian TV star Jessica Mulroney, who supported the Sussexes when they initially moved to Vancouver earlier this year, has never commented on whether she was one of the sources. Ms. Markle insists her unnamed friends did it without her knowledge, according to court documents. Sections of the letter were published in the newspaper and online in February last year, and it was announced in October that the Duchess would be bringing legal action. Meghan has branded Thomas a liar and denied she knew her influential friends' plans to reveal details of their deteriorating relationship to an American magazine, court papers published earlier this week revealed. Following the conclusion of today's hearing, Mr. Justice Warby will decide whether to exclude a series of elements of her case, and said his ambition was to publish in the week. Experts believe the Duchess is playing a very high-stakes game, which could see her facing her father in the High Court, having cut off all contact with him since the royal wedding in May 2018. Mark Stevens, a partner at Howard Kennedy, says if the case makes it to trial, Meghan must testify, as well as her 5 anonymous friends who briefed People magazine about the contents of the letter before it was published by the Mail on Sunday. Mr. Stevens told Newsweek, "This has become a very high-stakes game for Meghan because ultimately it gets into a situation of whether she's telling the truth. All of her 5 friends are going to have to come into the case. They're going to have to be cross-examined. She's going to have to be cross-examined." The Mail on Sunday's QC is a brilliant cross-examiner. Even if she wins the case on a technicality, she's going to lose the war. She's going to have huge lumps taken out of her reputationally. Gavin Miller QC, of Matrix Chambers, has predicted Ms. Markle's claim against the Mail on Sunday will be pared back. He said, "I think the way the claim has been pleaded is overblown. They've turned what ought to be a very straightforward case about the correspondence and the privacy issues into a sort of public inquiry into the Mail's journalism over a long period. There is a debate about whether the court should allow these kinds of things to go on. I think the court will pare the claim down from the way it's been pleaded and narrow it down. I think the court will do that, and it should be done." If the case goes before a judge for trial, the paper said it would ask for Meghan to be forced to hand over all communications in which she had caused or permitted her friends to provide information about her to the media or to seek to influence what is published about her. Thomas Markle, a retired Hollywood lighting director who lives in Rosarito, Mexico, has said his daughter cut off all contact with him after her wedding, except for the letter at the center of the case. If he were to be called as a witness, he would effectively have to brand his own daughter a liar who had invaded her own privacy. Meghan Markle branded her father Thomas a liar and denied she knew her influential friends' plans to reveal details of their deteriorating relationship to an American magazine, court papers published earlier this week revealed. Prince Harry pleaded with Meghan's father to accept their help in the fraught days before their wedding, it was claimed. He wrote in a text message to Thomas Markle, "If you love Meghan and want to make it right, please call me." These previously unseen messages from the Duke and Duchess of Sussex cast new light on the breakdown in Meghan's relationship with her father, and she effectively calls him a liar. In one message, Harry told him, "Speaking to the press will backfire, trust me, Tom. Only we can help you." The extraordinary High Court case has been dubbed Markle vs. Markle, in which the Duchess's estranged father, 75, is prepared to give evidence against his own daughter. Mr. Markle had also made desperate attempts to mend their relationship after heart surgery forced him to miss the 2018 royal wedding, it was said. On Monday, her legal team filed papers setting out her version of events, and detailing messages she and Harry had sent her father. She admits 5 of her closest friends talked to People, but said it was without her knowledge, and she was distressed they mentioned the letter. She also claims she did not receive his texts after the wedding reaching out to you. The papers submitted on Monday by the Duchess legal team also state, Mr. Markle did not answer truthfully when asked about the photographs taken and staged by a paparazzo photographer. Some of Mr. Markle's messages to his daughter were detailed in defense papers filed in January at the High Court in London by the Mail on Sunday. The documents said that after Mr. Markle messaged his daughter saying he couldn't come to her wedding because he had been taken to hospital for emergency heart surgery, he received a text from Harry admonishing him for talking to the press. Sent on May 16, the same day as his operation, the text from Harry did not ask how Mr. Markle was, the newspaper's legal document said. It said Mr. Markle was deeply hurt and responded, "I'm sorry my heart attack is any inconvenience for you." The Mail on Sunday's case is that she effectively breached her own privacy because Mr. Markle had kept his daughter's handwritten note private for months, and only revealed it to expose false claims that the Duchess had been reaching out to repair the relationship. Meghan knowingly allowed 5 close friends to leak details of the letter to People magazine to attack her father, the newspaper's document stated. The result was a one-sided interview published on February 6, 2019, in the Celebrity Weekly headlined, Her best friends break their silence and the truth about Meghan. The defense papers said, Thomas Markle only released Meghan's letter to the world to show it was not the loving plea her friends had been making out.